Okay, right. Let's unpack this. You sent over some sources about that recent Air India 787 Dreamliner incident in Ahmedabad.
Yeah, I did. And our mission for this deep dive really is just to quickly cut through that material together.
Hmm.
We want to pull out the key info about the 787 model itself, its history,
Right.
and crucially, how this specific event fits, or maybe doesn't fit, with Boeing's overall safety picture, especially thinking about past issues with a totally different plane.
Exactly. So the goal here is like a quick briefing for you, our listener, get you up to speed fast, but only using what's in the material provided. Let's just jump in.
Okay, so looking at the sources, the first thing is the plane itself, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. It launched, what, about 14 years ago?
It was like ages ago, but also not. And it just hit a huge number, right? A billion passengers.
Here's a billionth passenger just last month. But what really stands out in the articles before today's news
What's that?
is the 787's reputation, how it was viewed before this crash. Well, the sources, they consistently call it a workhorse, a mainstay for those long international flights. And they really emphasize it had an exemplary safety record.
Exemplary. That's a strong word. Up until today in Ahmedabad.
Precisely. Which brings us right to the news, the Air India crash. And, well, whenever you hear Boeing incident now...
Yeah, your mind immediately jumps, right, to past problems.
It does. But this is where the sources you shared are, like, crystal clear from the get-go.
How so?
They explicitly state this crash involves the 787 Dreamliner. It is a different plane from the Boeing 737 MAX. They really hammer that point home.
Okay, that distinction feels critical. And just to sort of set the context the sources provide, they do mention the 737 MAX issues briefly.
They do. They recap the terrible crashes in Indonesia and Ethiopia, 2018, 2019, hundreds tragically lost. And looking at the background in these sources, the 737 MAX crashes, they were traced back to that specific software fault.
Right, the flight control system issue, MCSE.
That's the one, which led to that huge grounding, remember? 18 months worldwide for the MAX fleet.
A massive deal, tied directly to that software problem on the MAX. Okay, so bringing it back to this incident today, the 787 in India. What are the sources saying about the cause right now?
Well, this is the crucial bit based on the material we have. It emphasizes very clearly that so far, there is nothing to suggest any fault on Boeing's part in this specific incident, today's crash.
Okay, so the initial reports are drawing a clear line. 787, not the same as the MAX's past issues, and no Boeing fault yet. Where do the sources say we get the real answers from?
Yeah, they point straight to the next step, recovering the plane's black boxes.
And flight data recorder.
Exactly. They hold everything. Speed, altitude, what was said in the cockpit, vital information. That's how investigators will piece together what actually happened. It's going to take time.
Right. So just to sum up what we've pulled from your sources in this deep dive. The 787 Dreamliner, strong safety record until today. This crash involves that plane, yes, but the reports are careful to separate it from the 737 MAX's specific software history.
Distinct issues.
And critically, as of now, zero indication of a Boeing fault in this event.
Exactly. It really it highlights how these things unfold, doesn't it? You get the initial reports, the so far picture, but the full verified story, that only comes after the deep dive, the meticulous work, often depending entirely on unlocking what's inside those black boxes.
It really makes you think, about that gap between the first news flash and the final understanding. How much relies on that patient investigation versus the immediate report, something to keep in mind as this develops.